Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the surprising science behind those leftovers sitting in your fridge right now. I mean, think about it. Have you ever just pulled last night's dinner out, tossed it in the microwave, and, eaten it without a second thought? We pretty much all do this every single day, usually when we're just too tired to cook anything else. But what is actually happening at a microscopic level when we do that? Okay, let's get right into it. Reheating last night's dinner feels totally normal, and honestly, it usually is. But here's the thing. According to oncologists and nutrition researchers, certain everyday foods actually change chemically when they're reheated. Eating them this way, again and again over the years, might quietly increase hidden health risks that most of us just never think about. Now, we're not trying to make you terrified of your fridge. It's really just about understanding the science of what happens when food cools down and then gets heated back up. Section 1. The suspects. 4 everyday foods. Let's start with something almost everyone eats: rice. Now, there's a specific bacteria we need to talk about called Bacillus cereus. Raw rice naturally contains the spores of this bacteria. And you'd probably think, well, boiling water kills everything, right? Actually, wrong. These spores can literally survive the initial cooking process. The real trouble starts if that cooked rice is just left sitting out at room temperature for too long. Those surviving spores multiply and start producing toxins. And here is the real kicker. While reheating that rice in the microwave will kill the live bacteria, it does absolutely nothing to destroy the toxic byproducts that have already formed. It's honestly one of the most underestimated food poisoning risks in a normal kitchen. Our second food might actually surprise you: spinach. This goes for other leafy greens too, like beet greens and celery. Obviously, these veggies are super healthy, and they're packed with naturally occurring nitrates, which are 100% safe when the vegetable is fresh and eaten right after cooking. But the whole issue pops up when that cooked spinach is left out, stored improperly, or reheated multiple times. So, under the wrong chemical conditions, those perfectly safe nitrates can actually convert into nitrites. Then, under specific chemical conditions in our bodies, those nitrites form compounds called nitrosamines. Why does that matter? Well, animal studies classify some nitrosamines as potential carcinogens. Now, to be fair, human evidence around home-cooked reheated spinach is pretty limited, but doctors generally say, hey, take a cautious approach. If you're making a massive batch of soup, it's actually way better to just add fresh greens each time you heat up a bowl, rather than boiling the same exact spinach over and over again. All right, moving on to our third suspect: eggs. Eggs are packed with awesome high-quality protein, but protein structures are super sensitive to repeated high heat. When you reheat eggs, the protein molecules can break down even further, and that actually makes them harder for your digestive system to process. Plus, if you're reheating eggs in a microwave, it often creates this super uneven heat distribution. You know what I mean? Some parts are totally scorched and rubbery, while others are still cold. That isn't just gross to eat, it actually allows bacteria hiding in those cold spots to survive. Finally, we've got potatoes. Potatoes are a low-acid, moisture-rich food. And honestly, this next part kind of blew my mind. If cooked potatoes sit at room temperature wrapped up in warm foil, they create this perfect oxygen-poor environment. And that is exactly where a dangerous bacteria called Clostridium botulinum absolutely thrives. Just like with the rice, this bacteria produces toxins that simple reheating cannot undo. So if you leave a baked potato sitting on the counter in its foil for hours before tossing it in the fridge, you are essentially setting up the perfect bacterial breeding ground. No thank you. So when we think about all 4 of these foods together, a pretty clear pattern emerges. It isn't the reheating itself that's dangerous. I mean, humans have been reheating leftovers for thousands of years. The actual danger is the environment we unknowingly create for chemical changes and bacterial growth before the food ever even makes it back into the microwave. Nutrient-dense, moisture-retaining foods just need to be handled with a little bit more respect. Section 2. The root cause: 3 bad habits. The very first mistake is leaving food in what food safety experts literally call the danger zone. That's anywhere between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature range where bacteria multiply the absolute fastest. The longer your food sits out in this zone on your kitchen counter, the more bacteria and toxins can build up. And remember, no amount of reheating afterward can undo the toxins that have already formed. So bad habit number 1, leaving food at room temp for too long. Mistake number 2 is reheating a single dish multiple times. Every single time you cool and reheat a giant pot of soup or a huge container of rice, you're giving any surviving bacteria yet another opportunity to grow during the cooling phase. Plus, you increase the chemical breakdown of the proteins. And mistake number 3, underheating your food in short microwave bursts.
Sure, it might feel pleasantly warm to eat, but being warm doesn't necessarily kill the bacteria that were growing while it sat in your fridge. So, the absolutely crucial point is this specific temperature, 165 degrees Fahrenheit. To actually be considered safe, food safety experts recommend that your reheated food should reach a steaming internal temperature of at least 165 degrees. It needs to be hot all the way through, not just lukewarm on the top.
Section 3, Reality Check. Food poisoning versus cancer. Okay, you have probably seen terrifying headlines claiming that your leftovers are going to cause cancer. But it's time for a reality check. Taking theoretical biochemical pathways and blowing them completely out of proportion is a classic and honestly kind of ridiculous media tactic. Eating leftover spinach occasionally is not going to cause cancer. We really need to distinguish between theoretical risks and actual everyday threats. While things like nitrosamines in spinach do pose a theoretical long-term risk based mostly on animal studies, the actual primary threat in your kitchen is everyday bacterial food poisoning from poor storage. Developing consistent bad habits around food storage over years, that is what actually increases your risk of bacterial illness, and that is what we need to fix.
Section 4, the action plan, 5 steps to safety.
The good news is keeping your food safe is super simple. Just follow these 5 actionable steps. Step 1, cool your food quickly. Don't let it sit out for more than an hour. Step 2, store your food in shallow containers rather than one giant deep pot. This helps it cool down way faster and much more evenly in the fridge. Step 3, only portion out and reheat exactly what you're going to eat in that sitting, and leave the rest safely cold. Step 4, heat it thoroughly and evenly to 165 degrees. Oh, and stir it halfway through if you're using a microwave, just to eliminate those dangerous cold spots. And step 5, when in doubt, throw it out. If leftovers have been in the fridge for more than 3 or 4 days, it is simply not worth the risk. At the end of the day, reheating food safely is just a normal part of everyday cooking. It saves time, it saves money, and it massively reduces food waste. So take that extra 30 seconds to cool your rice, unwrap those potatoes, and store your spinach right. Which leaves us with one final question to ponder the next time you're cleaning up after dinner. Are your current kitchen habits setting up a microscopic science experiment on your counter? Or are you actually protecting your future self?